On November 10th, 2022, Quadeca released an album that shook the music scene, an album full of nothing but masterpieces, an album so grand and beautiful yet so heavy and dark. He called this art, I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Back in the year 2018, Quadeca was just 18 years old when he released his album Voice Memos. This album gained a lot of traction as it was dropped shortly after his beef with KSI. Quad's diss track would blow up and currently sits at 38 million views on YouTube. When he dropped Voice Memos, Quadeca was not only my favorite YouTuber, but he quickly became my favorite artist, and he is the reason I am into the music I am today. It's funny looking back on Voice Memos in 2024, seeing how much grander he has become. Following up Voice Memos with From Me to You, an album that showed a lot of growth and a lot of potential, with his single Sisyphus really showing just a glimpse of how far he can go. From Me to You is the start of something special. It allowed for Quad to gain attention from legit music critics. Anthony Fantano even made multiple videos in regards to the potential of his musical incline. Today, Fantano praises Quadeca, putting some of his songs in his best of the year, and most recently putting his recent Scrapyard series EPs in his top 10 EPs of the year. What really sparked this spike in Quadeca's legitimacy was the drop of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. Today, I want to go into the album, break down each song, I want to explain this beautiful piece of art, at least everything I know about it. So let's sit back, relax, and deep dive the beauty of this terrifying album. The opening track hops right into the darkness. This album is written from the point of view of a ghost. Quadeca has committed suicide, and he realizes the regret and pain he may feel from it after it has been done. His first words being, he mentions a fuel tank blinking, a metaphor that he is running out of gas, being the will to live. He claims that he has God stuck between his hands, possibly meaning that you choose life and death when you play God. Possibly the God he has put in his hands being what he used to end his life. He says he runs in and out of dreams, a form of haunting someone even in their sleep, saying he repeats everything these people said to him while he was alive, now seeing how they act after his passing. Quadeca often alludes to the fact that he is roaming his childhood home throughout this album, watching his family now as a spirit. Quadeca confirms he does not regret the decision to end his life at this point. He turned away and decided not to go back. The instrumental has a drop as Quadeca expresses his disconnect from the real world now. He looks around and sees nothing. He feels out of place now, being even more lonely in the spirit world. He shows his despair and not being noticed anymore. He tries to reach out, he tries to scream, but nothing comes out. Nobody can hear him. He says to his loved ones that he wants to hold them without haunting. He wants the people in his life to not be held back from his passing, yet he wants to reach out to them. He ends the song repeating, which leads us to the next track where he is alone and beginning to question his choices. Tell Me a Joke was the second single released for this album and is so beautiful, really giving us more context to the album before its full release. Ben starts the song off by saying, "Knock knock, who's there?" Now being in the afterlife, he wonders who could be at his door, hoping it could be someone of importance, maybe a loved one connecting to him through the spirit world. But Eka wonders what was truly thought of him by people he was close to. He mentions a familiar shadow that everyone knew, possibly alluding to people knowing of Quadeca but never really knowing who he was on the inside. He thought the decision of killing himself was the right one, but as we get to the chorus, we begin to see the doubt in himself, realizing he never got to finish the things he was supposed to do. He mentions being a bone-dry skeleton, alluding to more time passing following his death. He claims he tried to walk himself out of the ground, his own grave. He says all he could hear were the crickets. Crickets being a stereotypical sound used when a joke doesn't land, fitting the theme of the song. He claims that the joke was on him. He took the easy way out of life and he's beginning to realize the consequences and the regret he feels. He reflects on everything he couldn't be in life. He laughs at himself, not realizing the joke was on him the entire time. He says, I guess he was just dying of laughter. Okay, I'll just go home. He claims something feels off as the room is empty and the crickets are all he can hear. Quadeca claims the door broke, possibly meaning the door was his only way out. He can't escape. He can't come back to life. Quadeca says he reached through the walls and felt for the key. He mentions the cameras are now pointing away. Nobody is focusing on him now that he passed. The song goes into the chorus before having an instrumental break, a beautiful piece of music before exploding into this grand, epic, noisy finale. I love the music video for this as it shows Ben's ghost running from the spotlight, running away from the way he feels in the afterlife now. Don't mind me, meaning don't let me bother you. Quadeca does not want his suicide to affect anyone in his life. He claims he is somewhere in between. He's not in the afterlife, but he isn't living. He has a really good double entendre saying search and seizure. People from his life are searching and seizing things from his life, as well as the seizure being an uncontrollable feeling of consciousness. He mentions a coma and some anesthesia, further alluding on him being in a limbo. in a world between living and dying. This song has a lot of focus on Ben's family going through memories of his life, opening boxes trying to look for closure on his death. He has a gut-wrenching lyric about someone pointing to the sky, showing their love to him being in heaven, but he says he's so much closer, next to them, just over their shoulder. Always near, always watching, but never being heard or seen. Quadeca watches his family go through his things, opening drawers, reading letters, possibly trying to find more context as to why he made the choice he made to end his own life. As previously mentioned, Ben does not feel people knew the real him. The dead are often mourned and remembered through photos and memories. Ben claims these are souvenir versions of himself, as it only shows the happy moments and not the pain and suffering he felt most of the time in life. He references his family looking back on memories, even saying things he used to say to reminisce on his life. Now being buried in the ground, he claims he's being reborn through the dirt and the weeds. He yells out, formaldehyde being what they inject into you before a funeral. It also affects eyes, where Quadeca claims maybe you don't have to cry. He says to get the scraps, the remains of his life, and piece him back to life, which is one of my favorite lyrics off the entire album, as he wants his loved ones to put his life back together using old memories and photos. For the first time on the record, Quadeca mentions static, a term that he uses to solidify his ghost submerging deeper and deeper into the spirit world. He tells those who mourn him and his memories to put it all away, to forget him and not be hung up on his passing. The song ends with a beautiful outro. The way the vocals pan through the ending of this track are such a blessing to your ears. The vocals sound raw and emotional, and Ben confirms what we alluded to earlier, saying his family is opening boxes of his past, hoping to find the closure they need in his death. He says that he should have told them what was wrong and why he felt the way he did, so they aren't left wondering what did truly happen. Quadeca begins to reflect on his time being alive in this track, the opening lines being observations one would make from being born. He describes his old room, remembering the walls, the poster, the lamp, and more. He says he made a mark through the dust on the floor as he walked through, signifying nobody has been in this room for a while. He claims he saw his mother's eyes for the second time, now in the afterlife, visiting his mother as a ghost, almost as if he's being born again, but as a spirit. He is in the same room as his mother, standing so close to her, but not being seen makes him feel so far away. Now being back in the family house, Ben sees his old dog. He tries to call and the dog runs from him. It is believed that dogs are able to see or feel supernatural beings. This song has a very heavy sense of Quadeca's emotions getting to him as he enters his old home and begins to haunt the people he loves. He reflects on the basket his mother used to carry him in, now as he lays in a coffin underground. He claims he needs his mother to be with him. He is unsure of how to make this happen, as he is now a ghost unable to interact with her. One of the most beautiful parts of the album follows, as he asks his loved ones, likely his mother, to follow him. He wants to see everywhere they have been without him since his passing. Quadeca compares his skin to Lazarus, as it is rotting and it is decaying more and more as time goes on. He says, "Pick up my hands," as he wishes for his mother to pick his hands up once more, just like she did after he was born. The first single Quadeca released was Born Yesterday. In my opinion, this is Quadeca's best song to date. The concept, the writing, the production, the sample, everything about this song is peak music. This song has Quadeca seeing the people he loves grieve his death. He claims he wasn't born yesterday, saying he isn't stupid. He knows his mother still grieves his loss, even when she tries to show that she is okay. He uses a sample from the Beatles song For No One, where it repeats, showing he is in desperate need of being with his mother again, but he does not believe she is as okay as she claims to be. The heartbreaking line of "she no longer needs you" shows the confliction Ben feels trying to deny the fact that his mom is moving on from his death. He quotes his mother, saying he is in a better place, imagining he is in heaven, and she does not know that he is still in this limbo, a world between life and death. He talks about his mother not being able to light the candles for his birthday anymore, still grieving his loss. Ben finally admits he is regretting his choice of committing suicide. He says he made a wish that'll never be, alluding that he wishes to come back to take back the mistake of ending his own life. Quadeca speaks upon his impact on the world, not just with family or friends, but with fans as well. His music has been played all over the world. There are hundreds of thousands of people who connect to Ben through his words. He feels he exists in all these places whilst being dead. Quadeca begins to see the people he loves move on from him. He has mentioned many times through the album so far that he does not want his loved ones to be hung up on his death, but now seeing them do just that is getting to him, upsetting him even in the afterlife. He mentions how it feels like the umbilical cord is still around him, furthering his connection to his mother, and how much he loves her and wants to be with her even through his death. He repeats the chorus as it gets more and more heavy and builds up into a beautiful drop. He goes into a verse saying it gets so bright that he disappears. Ghosts cannot be seen during the day. He confirms it has been 12 days since his suicide, but it feels like a million years because of all the pain and sorrow he's felt since his passing. He expresses how heavy the weight of life was on him when he was alive and breathing, again showing more confliction for his decision to end his life. He claims that his mother gave him something to believe in, being her love and affection for him. Being in purgatory has led him to believe that as his mother moves on, she will care less and less for him. The popular saying, everything happens for a reason, does not stand for Quadeca, as he claims his mother is lying when she said this happened for a reason, as it is just another way for her to cope his death. The instrumental switches up and begins to feel absolutely heavenly. His vocals sound perfect as he reflects and regrets things he never told his mother while he was alive. He says he'd be free if he saved the date, referring to earlier in the song when he claims he's been circling dates trying to change himself. If only he went through with the change. He'd still be alive, with his loved ones, with his mother, happy. Quadeca wants out of purgatory, he wants to be born again, he wants to be alive. The sixth track on this album works as an interlude. It is short, it is sweet, it is grand, it is beautiful, yet heartbreaking. He speaks to a loved one about them not grieving, as it affects Ben even though he claims he wants them to move on. It hurts him seeing them be okay without him. Even through death, he cannot find peace. Although dead, Quadeca has not been able to rest since being buried. He has been sad, broken, in purgatory. The song ends with sounds of his childhood, reminiscing on memories of him and his family. If you found this album to have a heavy, dark tone so far, you're in for a true shock here. Quadeca is lonely in the afterlife, desperate for attention and love. He's been thinking back on life and the mistakes he made. Ben claims he was yelling at his mother not to breathe in, but she could not hear him as his death set the gases off, the CO he will continue to mention throughout the song. He claims he is walking around his home, his mother turning the heater on to make up for the cold that Quadeca's ghost is letting in. The floorboards creak as he haunts his family home. His mother disregards it as house settling. She has dismissal for any and all unnatural occurrences, as she would have a harder time believing her son is in the house with her. It is common to be cremated after death, and Quadeca claims he cuddles up in a vase on a shelf. He begs his mother to notice him, saying, as in he cannot give up on his desperate attempts at being noticed. This begins to anger Quadeca more and more throughout the track. Quadeca uses a metaphor, cracks in the wall frames to hide it all. A common occurrence in homes to hide any damage to the house, but also meaning his mother is broken over his loss, covering it up with a smile. He mentions there still being disruption in the house from the suicide. Aging cytosol is in the air, a fluid that fills up cells, implying it was not cleaned from his death. Quadeca chants in a very fitting, haunting tone. He says, Quad, obviously being dead physically, feels he is dead to them mentally as well, as they begin to forget him. Quadeca hates that his loved ones are moving on. He wants them to be closer to death so they can reconnect. The carbon monoxide begins to set in, mentioning his mother beginning to get symptoms of the CO poisoning. Quadeca mentions to feel guilt. He can't say why yet, as we will get to that shortly. His family is kept busy to distract themselves from his passing. He claims they will see his words through the CO, claiming that as they begin to pass, they will remember him and find him again. He claims it breaks his heart, but he will give it a try, showing that he intends on them dying through the CO poisoning so they can once again be together. He turned on the stove, hoping for his mother to pass and find him in the afterlife. I know, that's freaking insane. The concept to this song is so wild and it's unreal that he even came up with this, and that isn't even all of it yet, as we have carbon monoxide, aka Danny Brown, about to rap from the perspective of carbon monoxide. He is the gas that Quadeca's ghost let out as the stove turned on, claiming when they breathe him in, they will pass away. Quadeca feels his family is dead to him now, as well for not mourning his death as long as he wishes. So this is his attempt to bring them all together, and we never get a true answer if he really did kill his own mother or not. Yeah, kinda crazy, and we'll theorize as we go on through the album. Knots is a song made to be if a panic attack was music. Quadeca is stressed, overwhelmed, and broken from his actions in the previous track. Having a knot is having a lump or tightness. Quadeca feels he has knots in his neck and his chest from all the weight of the problems he has ran into during his death. He says he is an open book in a closed casket, meaning he's completely open with his feelings and opinions now whilst being quite literally in a casket. Tying a knot has a double meaning here. He tied a knot to hang himself for his suicide, as well as tying a knot to metaphorically confirming an action or decision. He does not want his family to look back into figuring out why he did what he did. Quadeca says that when people share stories of him, they flinch when they get to his name, as naming the dead can often feel strange and awkward, as if they almost get a knot in their throat. He says unlucky tangles, those being the things that took place in his life that dragged him down to committing suicide. He says he's tripping, playing on the tangle aspect, as well as things he tripped on in life. After the chorus repeats with some very heavy deep guitar and bass, it switches into an overloaded noisy beat. Quadeca claims his strings are being pulled, being his heartstrings as life was painful and too much for him, as well as the rope he used to hang himself. Quadeca refers to being in the carpool, going back to some car metaphors he's used previously on the album, as it symbolizes a journey to the afterlife. He says he fastened up his belt, he cut cords if you couldn't tell, alluding that the belt not only of his car, but possibly being what he could have used to hang himself, and cutting cords meaning in his throat when he committed the suicide. He claims he does not fade to black as most people imagine you do when you pass away, rather he cuts to static, harshly making the decision to end his life. He has a very clever lyric about hoping you get luck from scratching at it, scratchers being a form of gambling that only tends to pay out in small amounts, saying his loved ones are going through the 5 stages of grief, entering the stage of bargaining. Quadeca has a line showing the regret of his attempt at killing his mother in the last song, claiming he has turned the oven off. He mentions how stories end quicker now, usually with the word never mind, as it is easier to dismiss anything regarding him than it is to talk about him still. Quadeca realizes he wants the people to move on from him and leave him to deal with his own problems in the afterlife on his own. He claims he tried to let the problems out and became tongue-tied, not only when he was living, but now in death as well, as he cannot be hurt. He says this is the strongest knot, the one in his throat that will never come untied. He has a great double here, as he says it's cold in the room ever since the son died, meaning he was the son of his mother, and his room is cold ever since his passing. He metaphors his life being like a gunfight where he had to fight through it all, but all he brought was a rope. Again, the rope being what he used to hang himself with. He says he doesn't want to think about that one night, the night being when he tried to kill his own mother. He finally admits the regret he felt from house settling. He ends this song with a poem that signifies the next song, bringing us back in time, back to when he was still alive. Fantasy World is a flashback. Quadeca claims he cries himself to sleep often, even in the afterlife. He says amen, of course, being what you say after prayer, showing Quadeca is praying for something to be taken to his fantasy world. Quadeca reminds us he is in a limbo, saying he is counting sheep, a method used to fall asleep. Quadeca is on the road that led to his suicide. Every person he encounters hoping to help him is a metaphoric dead end to this road. Quadeca felt that he wasn't anything special in his life, that he was very ordinary and didn't reach the potential he felt he could. Knowing he would do nothing to change that, like one of those dates he kept talking about circling and born yesterday, he made the choice to end his life instead. He expresses his desire to die, and this being a flashback shows this is what he was thinking while living. Quadeca says he drove mountains away, a callback to his previous album From Me to You, which was very snow related, the entire concept of the album being in the mountains. Quadeca finds more peace in the idea of being dead than being alive, which is something a lot of people can relate to at some point in their lives. He isn't using his suicide as a plea for help, but a release from his pain of being alive. He compares death to a place of comfort. He imagines when he is dead he will create his own world, he would go to his own fantasy world. This is where he makes it clear that death is the path he wants to go down. The song explodes into this grand, beautiful instrumental as he lets out so much emotion, really ascending himself to the option of suicide. Quadeca's soul has been so emptied through his death that he has no more to say. Not that he could anyways, as nobody's been able to hear him throughout this limbo. He says his fantasy world is over the mountain being to all of his problems that he had to climb over. He closes the song out by describing himself ascending to an afterlife he will never make it to. He says he's not in a rush, showing someone will only reach fulfillment if they carry on with their life, and not end it as Ben did. The ending of this song is unsettling and feels as if Ben's ghost has truly cemented itself into the afterlife.
It's getting hard for me to
Infinity is the idea of something never ending. No limitations. Us as humans will never be able to achieve everything we have the possibility of doing. Therefore, we are just fractions of infinity. That is a way you can look at this song title, and I'm not going to get into the other one because I'll get so lost, and you will too if I try to explain it. Quadeca questions when the last time he let himself think was. Quadeca compares the physical separation from his mother between the spirit world and the realm she lives in. Although they love each other, they can never give the expression to one another, as he cannot be seen or heard. He is wondering how God will sentence him, knowing the mistake he made on poisoning his mother on house settling. Quadeca in the chorus mentions that his mother thought these things were all in her head, not realizing that the gas was truly what was killing her. He says it's funny to think about it all again, as it was not just her imagination. He says now when he was alive, he was so afraid of having nothing, but now being dead, that is what he's stuck with forever. He claims he wants to overcome his fears. Quadeca finally accepts his sentence and punishment for trying to kill his own mother. Show me how you'll sentence me, he says. Quadeca claims when he misses his mother, he hears her speak to him, but he cannot see her. There's no person, no being. Every time he shares moments with his mother, he disappears for a moment. The most impactful words on the album signify that no matter how much he tries, he can never truly express how he feels. Quadeca sees his life inside of hand, being presented as a movie. Quadeca feels his spirit is in the air. The walls that cave in are the hands that come together when one prays. He has realized everything he could have done while alive, which leads him to joining the afterlife. Quadeca says he hit his target weight, which is now so thin as he is invisible. He uses the word exercise as a double meaning. His family is removing him from their lives, as well as exercise referring back to the target weight. Quadeca claims he ruined his life movie by committing suicide. Quadeca turned 23 after this album was released, showing he couldn't stop thinking about getting past another year. 23 takes of this movie would be too much on him. Ben mentions static many times through this record and says to throw some grain onto this movie to signify his death. Quadeca calls back to the opening track, Sorry for Dying, when he reunites with his creator, saying they are in a space between his hands about to clap, in applause for his movie. The song ends with Quadeca and the Sunday service choir repeating those words don't do you justice to really nail down on the fact that he can never truly express himself, dead or alive. The final song on this record is actually a poem. He starts off by saying 341, the time his suicide was committed. He says somebody close to him, likely his mother again, found him hanging. He was kicking and screaming but passed when the light turned on. He felt he intruded on them by them seeing his suicide. As he has claimed to be like static or grain throughout many tracks, he finally says he was proud of those who filtered out all that noise. All of these reminders of him and his death. When we die, it is believed we see a white light. Ben's ghost admits the light did not scare him, but watching the results of his death did. He wants those close to him to let go of him, but not let go of him at the same time, as he wishes to be mourned still. His spirit is still conflicted by the end of this story. He claims he will do the same. He let go of himself by ending his life, but never let go as he can no longer escape himself. He uses a metaphor of the static on a TV. Static meaning the TV is stuck between working and not working, where Ben is stuck between living and dying. The entire concept of this track is that Quadeca is finally letting go to become the nothing he wanted to be, becoming a blank canvas. Quadeca's ghost notices flaws within everybody and sees how they work to improve and fix these things. He realizes he must give in to the static to find his peace he searched for. He references a punchline, a callback to Tell Me a Joke. He says the static is filling the room, taking over as he gets closer and closer to becoming nothing. He feels drawn to the static now, finally ready to accept his death. He wants to let go of those he cares about and go into the void, but does not want to forget how these people treated him when he was alive. He hopes to become the light in the sky that his loved ones can look to, signifying he's waiting for them when their time is up too. After the final line, you hear a faint ticking of a clock, showing his time in the afterlife is running out. The album ends with about 4 minutes of overtaking static, getting louder and louder with each passing second, showing that it has consumed Ben fully, and he is now nothing. So that was my breakdown of I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, everything I understand from it anyways. Clearly it is a very tricky, puzzling album to fully dissect. It is seriously incredible though, and it means the world to me. The fact he created this is truly insane, and I'm forever thankful we got blessed with this form of art. I know I definitely missed some things throughout this breakdown, don't yell at me, but there's just so much to break down when it comes to this. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's all free, it's easy to do, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Peace.